She needs to land a new project manager to clear her business's runways.
Yes, Mrs. O'Hara, we checked. Pygmy goats do not count as emotional support animals.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Earn up to $500 in sponsored job credits by interviewing on Indeed. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
This is your captain speaking. You better buckle your seatbelts for this one. I noticed my passport was due to expire, so I went to Staples. I got a passport photo in 10 minutes, so we're good to go.
Now at Staples, get 20% off travel products when you purchase a passport photo. Get travel ready at Staples, your one-stop travel prep destination.
Hey, let me tell you about another time that Staples saved my caboose. That all started back...
N731, in-store only. Excludes Instacart orders, certain products, services, and technology. See staplesconnect.com/services/travel for details.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show on KCAA. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor, Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Go to Teamsters1932.org for more information. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. Are you underpaid and overworked? Is a living wage and employee benefits like affordable health care more of a dream than a reality for you and your family? If so, it's time to form a union. Don't be denied the wages and benefits you deserve. Come together in a union with the power of numbers. A union is not a privilege, it's your right, and it will make a difference. Contact Teamsters Local 1932, a powerful and successful labor union in San Bernardino, by visiting Teamsters1932.org/organize to start today. I'm Rick Smith, host of The Rick Smith Show, inviting you to listen to my show during the noon hour every weekday right here on KCAA. My show is sponsored locally by Teamsters 1932, a strong union with 14,000 members in the IE. Our message is clear. Unions improve the lives of working people. You have a right to form and join a union, so go to Teamsters1932.org and get started now.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org. Are you looking for a good union job? The Inland Empire's 14,000 members strong Teamsters Local 1932 has opened a training center to get working people trained and placed in open positions in public service clerical work and in jobs in the logistics industry. This is a new opportunity to advance your career and raise standards across the region. Visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
Labor unions built the middle class, and the middle class built America. That's the message from Teamsters Local 1932, a strong and successful labor union based in San Bernardino that represents over 14,000 hardworking people across the Inland Empire. The Teamsters are ready to help you organize for better pay, increased benefits, and improved working conditions. Reach out to Teamsters 1932 at Teamsters1932.org/organize to speak with an organizer today.
Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. The 7th January 6th committee hearing, and oh boy, what a hearing it was indeed. The bombshell, for me, a bunch of them was, again, all of these hearings have been Well, quite one entertaining. I got to tell you, whoever's putting this on, Liz Cheney and your crew, nice job. Riveting, captivating, good must-see TV, but factual, and damning. Wow. The criming right out in front, in their own words, mind you. But the bombshell today for me was that, as Liz Cheney said, the former guy making a phone call to a witness. Actually, I would argue the crime, something that I'm now going, maybe he's going to be charged with a crime now, because this a crime. Witness tampering is a crime. Yeah, you would think smarter than that. You would think the Orange Menace would kind of get that. You know, that whole Mafia Don thing, you always have 30 degrees of separation. If someone else do your dirty work for you never pick up the phone and make the threat yourself. You know, when you go, hey, when you got a 90-miles career there, I would hate to see something bad happen to it. You know, got a mighty nice family. I hate to see something happen to it. You know, you never deliver that message yourself. And I'm sure you will say, no, I was just going to wish her a happy day or him a happy day. No. So going to be very interesting. Now, for me, there was a lot in this hearing. Lots of stuff. The Cipollone testimony, very compelling, very interesting, very insightful a little bit, because I got this sense when he talked about when they brought up the Mike Pence, that he did a great service to this country, and how he evidently at one point said that he deserved the Presidential Medal of Freedom. You go, no, I'm not going that. No. Doing your job, and I would argue poorly. No. Does he deserve, a pat on the back, going, hey, you at least came around doing the right thing, and I've been consistent on this. Not a hero. Yeah, he deserves the credit for doing his freaking job, for not wanting to go to jail, for not being the subject of these hearings, for being smart enough, for surrounding himself with people who are smart enough to go, no, I will lay my body across the road before you do this. Oh, wait a minute. There was a federal judge friend who said that he would do that. Yeah, so again, the advice of the people that surround him, you give, I guess if you're going to give Pence any credit, he went to Dan Quayle. May not be able to spell potato, but can understand, that this is a bad idea. Went to the federal judge who said, no, don't do this. He got good advice, whereas these hearings kind of showing Team Crazy was kind of in control of Trump. And this is, this is what we always knew about Team Chaos. We knew Trump would gravitate towards extreme, towards crazy. And this came out in the testimony, right? That, he wanted people who were going to defend him. What was the word she used? Ferociously, viciously, that they were going to go out and attack for him. He loved the fact that people were going to go out there and fight for him. And, amazingly, the cult did. And even while he was getting the advice from Cipollone and Hirschman and, I guess Team Normal, I guess they've dubbed themselves, he still gravitated towards the Sidney Powell, the Rudy Giuliani, the crazies, the chaos, because he wanted all of this. And I think that's what today's hearings kind of brought out. Now, on Team Chaos, Team Crazy, Team whatever, you have this Peter Navarro, who evidently went on Newsmax to talk about Mike Pence and said, no, Mike Pence committed treason for refusing to overturn. He committed treason for refusing to commit treason. That's the Navarro thought. He says, quote, the reason why I think Pence is guilty of treason to at least President Trump and perhaps to this country is that he acted on the basis of a flawed legal opinion concocted by his own general counsel that he did not share with either the president or with the president's White House legal counsel. The reason he didn't share it with the legal counsel of the White House is because they were all on the same page. He didn't share it with Team Crazy because they were crazy. And his opinion, the opinions that he was getting, 230 years of the country. You lost the election, Donald. You concede. And here's the really bizarre part of all this. Had he just said, you know what? We lost the election. We lost. We're going to help a transition. We wish the country the best. We wish the best for Joe Biden. We're going to do everything we can do to help the transition go forward. We're going to honor the will of the people because we love this country and we believe in what it stands for. He would be, by far, hands down, leading the charge to do whatever he wanted. It would be a total red bloodbath, the red wedding that the Proud Boys and the extremist groups wanted on January 6th, we would see in November. Because, well, the Republican machine has got the American people where they want them, thinking the economy's horrible, even with unemployment at 3.6%, thinking that, oh my God, the world's ending. It's all bad. It's all bad. Had Trump just gone, you know what, we're gonna push all these problems off, and these problems were predictable. Anybody who sat back and gamed this out understood that all of the problems coming out of the pandemic were going to be sitting in Joe Biden's lap. He was going to have another mess to clean up. Yes, a Democrat was going to have to clean up another mess from a Republican, just like Obama had to clean up after Bush, just like Clinton had to clean up after Bush. This is how this game has been played for decades. And it was predictable that Biden was going to have to clean up this mess, and in a huge way. As the supply chains were broken and had to be restarted, as we flipped the switch on and the economy started roaring again, we need to restock shelves and get people back to work and all of the stuff. There was going to be frictional chaos, and it's going to be tough, and we knew this, and they knew it, and they boogered it up. Because Trump could have, right now, had he done what every president has done of my lifetime and pretty much from the beginning of this country, you lost the election. You take your lumps. You do what John Adams did. You sulk out of town like a thief in the middle of the night, but you relinquish power and you concede. And then you come back and then you attack. He'd have a 70% approval rating right now. Without question, he would be hands down the favorite in 2024. Republicans would have the red wedding that the Proud Boys wanted in November. And this country would be the fascist, theocratic, authoritarian state that the Republicans want. Without question. And, there's part of me that goes, thank goodness for Donald Trump. Because he couldn't help himself. And it's clear from this testimony, couldn't help himself. Could not help himself at all. Now, were there some interesting moments? Yeah, one of the statements from this Brad Parscale, one of his campaign managers, that they killed Trump's rhetoric killed somebody, and yeah, what I found interesting is someone was trying to allay it. No, it wasn't the rhetoric. That wasn't the reason Ashley Babbitt was killed. No, you're okay. No, it was. He knew it was. But then he went back and he tried to defend him anyway. So no points for him either. But this is kind of that kind of same thing. Just an amazing day of testimony. I'd love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. If you saw the hearing, what you thought of him, did it make a difference? Is this important? And I think it is. I think this is making, especially today, when you saw these extremist groups, and you saw the coordination, and you saw the messaging, the Alex Joneses of the world. And look, I've met Alex Jones a number of times over the years. And I always think back to a conversation I had with him. We talked for about 20 minutes one time. Good, honest, decent, lucid conversation. Two guys waiting in a room, just hanging out for the conference to start. Seemed sane, seemed reasonable, seemed rational. Businessman, doing the same thing that I was doing. And he went on stage to give his little spiel because the talkers people were giving him their First Amendment speech, fighter, defender of free speech award. And the reality is all the people in the room just wanted to figure out how he monetized his show and how he was using the internet to line his pockets. Because he was one of the pioneers on the right to do this. He was one of the first people to figure out how to get these working class people to send him a bunch of money to spew anger and the outrage candy and at a much sharper tone than you got on talk radio. Talk radio would take you so far, but they would leave it at the waters. That no, it's we can't go too far. He would go all the way, and it was really just heated, extreme, and conspiratorial on huge levels. But the thing I remember about him is, we sat and we had a very decent conversation. Two guys, normal people having a conversation. But the second he got on stage, it was all performative. He went from zero to crazy in a blink of an eye. Really a raging lunatic. And the character that you saw, I believe he has morphed into completely. And you talk to people who do character actor work, they become those characters. And I believe he has gone so dark and so deep into the rabbit hole. He is that character that years ago that I met, that, he was the rational, sane guy for a bit, but when he needed to perform, when he needed to get the grinder to start grinding the music as he's the monkey dancing around, the grinder just went away and he just was the monkey full time. And this is what came out in this hearing. You saw the heated, angry, the hateful rhetoric, and the divisive stuff, and the Roger Stone stuff with this is God's calling, and this is the dark hour, and even the rhetoric that Reagan used to use. But it only took you so far. 1,000 years of darkness, and you're going to take us into the abyss. And this is the stuff that the Republicans have done masterfully. They've got their base believing that anyone who isn't them, not just the Democrats, but anyone, especially the Democrats, though, they're enemies of the state. They're less than human. They've dehumanized them. So it's okay to treat them poorly. It's okay to injure or kill. It's okay because there's something less than. And this is the scary part of what the right has been allowed to build for years. And this is why during the Obama years, you had them saying, look, there's all of these right-wing extremist groups growing, which is why you had, the Proud Boys, the Three Percenters, the Oath Keepers. You had all of these groups on watch lists. And why one of the first things that Trump did when he became president, destroyed all that. Because, hey, we can't have our base being watched by the FBI. We can't have the people who are eventually going to be our foot soldiers in our treason be watched by the FBI. So it's kind of an interesting day. Now, I think one of the things we should all be looking out for is, this Liz Cheney comment about Trump trying to tamper with a witness. This is a crime. It'll be interesting to see what Merrick Garland does. Love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Couple of talk. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So it's all about stopping the steal, because there was all that election fraud going on, and yet we find out in 2016 there's a Republican candidate for Congress from New Hampshire. His name is Matt Mowers. He voted in two primaries, two presidential primaries, one in New Jersey, one in New Hampshire. Now, it's a violation of federal law, but he's going to get away with it because of statute of limitations. Can't even, when we find the actual crime, they don't even commit, can't even do anything about it. Oh, there you go. Let's go to the phones. Got Alice on one. Alice, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good. You know, I'm looking at this hearing, going, I'm hopeful. I'm actually hopeful.
Yes, we can hope, if nothing else. But it was rather interesting today, I thought, to have the one of the insurrectionists, if you will, and then the former oath keeper sit there and tell about their warnings. And I like how they are stringing things out, whetting your appetite, so you can't wait to tune in next week.
Yep. No. They're whoever, Liz Cheney and her crew are doing a great job of teasing this out. This is must-see TV.
Absolutely. But my husband and I, like I said, we've, been paying attention this whole time. So we're really not surprised by a lot of the things. And I'm just wondering to myself, and my husband even commented on how many Republicans out there are getting a little bit scared that maybe their name's going to crop up somewhere.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point. And hopefully, Jim Jordan's name keeps coming up. Hopefully my Congressman Scott Perry's name keeps coming up. Hopefully we keep bringing up all of these traitors and treasonous seditionists, and we hold them accountable.
So I wish my congressional representative's name would come up, but it's Ragenfeld.
Yeah.
And he's a little sneak, and
No.
Oh, he is. I cannot stand him. He kept sending me all these crazy emails, and finally I wrote an email back, and I said, look, just stop sending me emails, because if I want to hear propaganda, I'll watch Fox News, and I haven't gotten any sense. But you have a good evening.
Thank you, Alice. Appreciate it. Now, the thing is I keep hearing people go, well, it's not a big deal. No one's paying attention. No, it actually is starting to move the needle. In fact, some new polling out by Politico and the Morning Consult, they are suggesting that these hearings, this being the 7th, actually kind of. And look, I'll be the first to tell you, I thought that waiting so long after January 6th, they'll roll this stuff out, giving the Republican machine, all of this time, all of these months, 17 some odd months, to be able to spin their narrative. It wasn't a big deal. It was just another day in the park. They were walking between the ropes. Never mind the giant pile of feces on the floor that they left there for you. Never mind the urine on the wall and on the desk and the broken windows and the police officer stabbed with the flag. Never mind. Don't look over there. Just look at the people walking between the ropes. I thought that the narrative had been spun, but according to this most recent polling, they're saying 66% of voters say Trump attempted to overturn the 2020 election. 2/3 of the people saying, yeah, he actually did what he's being accused of doing. That is a pretty big thing. 66% say he claimed the election was fraudulent without evidence. Yeah, I'm surprised that's as low as it is. Should be higher, but it's moving in that direction. 59% say that Trump misled the public about the outcome of the election. Again, 59% should be much higher, but there's this moment where what's getting interesting is 44% of Republicans say Trump lied about the election results. That's telling, now that's up 7% since the end of June. that means that they're paying attention. As much as the right wing go, no, it's all a hoax, no one's paying attention. Oh, they are. And when they hear the story of that Stephen Ayers, the cabinet maker from Ohio, who was living the American life. He was a father, played basketball with the kids, went camping, cabinet maker, doing his management job. He was living the dream. Had a house, wife, kids, all that stuff. But fell down the F channel social media rabbit hole, and to use his words, had blinders on. And all he saw, loves his country. And look, I don't doubt for a second. And this is where some on the left would go, no, Rick, these are your traitors. No, I don't doubt for a second that the vast majority of the people who were in that crowd believed that they loved this country and believed that in that moment that they were fighting the good fight. I don't doubt that, because they have been so immersed in this world of, you're a good American, you're a good God-fearing American, and everyone else are a bunch of heathens and commies and socialists, because this is the world that they've put themselves in. The right does such a masterful job of propping up the individual, the ego, of telling these people that they're superior, they're the best Americans, they're the best workers, they're the best, and everyone else is below them, and they don't need each other or anyone else. And this is the amazing thing, the mastery of what we see coming out of the right wing, and why this January 6th moment is kind of important. Because all of those people believed that this was their 1776 moment. They were the founders. History was going to remember them as the patriots, the ones who were going to shed the blood, not theirs, of course, going to water the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants, and those tyrants were going to maybe include Mike Pence. But they were fighting the good fight, and Donald Trump was their leader. And we found out today, again, that spontaneous, hey, we're going to march to that spontaneous, we're going to go to the Capitol, wasn't spontaneous at all. It was well planned out. They just wanted it to appear like it was spontaneous so that they could have plausible deniability, so that they wouldn't be held accountable for it. They want to commit crimes. They want to break the law. They want you to know they broke the law, but they don't want to be accountable for it. This is one of those moments where we need to, without question, start holding these people accountable from top to bottom. And for me, it's that simple. And it starts with the guy at the top. And if it's just the obstruction, or if it's just the witness tampering, that's a start for me. But from what we're hearing, wow, I can't wait for next Thursday. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Fred Willman's going to be here from the Beer Hall Project, going to share some thoughts. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day newspapers throughout the South announced the return of Ida Sledge to Tupelo, Mississippi. The ILGWU organizer had been leading unionization efforts at 3 area mills. Twice, she was driven out. Prominent businessmen invited her to leave town just days earlier, warning her not to return under the threat of violence. Earlier that spring, workers had held a sit-down strike at the Tupelo cotton mill. They demanded higher wages and shorter hours in the town's first labor action ever. The mill's stockholders responded by voting to liquidate. Sledge immediately filed charges with the NLRB against the mills for violating the Wagner Act. Now, newspapers reported a tense atmosphere in Tupelo with Sledge's return. She stated, quote, "I don't mean to cause any trouble. I intend to organize the garment workers and don't propose to be scared away." The Citizens Committee soon declared victory, claiming they had organized 1,000 workers at 5 plants into independent home unions. Sledge condemned these as company unions. By the end of the month, Democratic Representative of Mississippi John Rankin thundered. These representatives of the so-called Labor Relations Board boasted they were going to close every factory in the city before they quit. And when they got through with it, there would be no Tupelo left. The following spring, local organizer Jimmy Cox was taken outside of town and flogged by 15 men. Sledge was again threatened and driven away permanently. The mill owners finally relented in August as the NLRB trial loomed. They disbanded their company unions, reinstated fired workers with back pay, and posted notices that they would not interfere with organizing efforts. But unfortunately, the ILGWU never gained much from their organizing efforts. Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
Perhaps you remember Senator Barry Goldwater, the GOP's fringy far-right wing 1964 presidential nominee, who famously said, "Extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice." Today, however, the core of the Republican Party has gone so far beyond the fringe that they would boo Goldwater's right-wingism as insufficiently rabid. Instead, their new rallying cry is, "Nuttiness in the defense of extremism is no vice." The GOP's mainline officialdom now proclaim themselves the party of extremism. They are openly embracing the crazy, including conspiracy theorists, neo-Confederates, and QAnon cultists, hoping to harness the fanatical horsepower of these anti-democratic groups to the party's true purpose of entrenching the supremacy of corporate and moneyed elites. Now, this extremism is about to erupt in the GOP's presidential primary, for a whole covey of these cooling right-wingers have fantasies of taking the group's radical agenda to the White House. All of them are trying to out-extreme each other with raw meat bigotry and autocratic posturing. But two wannabes have emerged as both the most bullish and bullying: Greg Abbott of Texas and Ron DeSantis of Florida. For months, these big state governors have been locked in a far-right cook-off, including outlawing free speech, banning books, viciously attacking immigrants, preempting local elections and governments, and denying health care to poor people. Bear in mind that Abbott and DeSantis are not merely pontificating, posturing, and promising what they might do in the White House. As governors, they're actually practicing it right now. This is Jim Hightower saying, I don't know if Abbott and DeSantis are the worst that the GOP can do, but pay attention, for today's Republican elites intend to pull our democracy down into the plutocratic, autocratic, and theocratic maelstrom they're creating.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So one of the more interesting moments today, now, outside of the hearings, Jake Tapper on CNN was interviewing the mustache, John Bolton. And Tapper said, his comment was, one doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup. And you go looking at Trump and you go, no, you're not a brilliant guy. This was not a brilliant attempt at a coup. It was done by a bunch of chaotic, crazy people. But John Bolton, chimed in. He goes, no, I disagree with that. He says, as someone who has helped plan coup d'etat here, not here, but in other places, it takes a lot of work. And I guess he wants a pat on the back. I don't know, and I would love it. My question is, why didn't Jake Tapper go, whoa, where, if not here, where? Why wasn't that brought up? But hey, I guess John Bolton has planned coups around the world, and they are hard work. Anyway, share some thoughts on the coup comment and also the hearings. I've asked our good friend Fred Wellman to come talk with us. Fred is the co-founder of the Beer Hall Project. He's also a political consultant and former senior advisor to the Lincoln Project. Fred, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, it was good to be back, brother.
So coups are hard, Fred. Not here, of course, not here, because you don't need to be brilliant here, but coups are hard.
It's exhausting sometimes, the hubris that goes into these comments. Hey, look, I would argue that a successful coup is hard. I should say that, right? Anybody can fail. It's a joke I make when people say they're a fighter. I'm like, yeah, but there's a difference between being a fighter and actually winning, right? And so, you could argue that this was an attempted coup, and it was an attempted coup. Could it have worked? No, they weren't very smart people. But I would agree that it's just, John Bolton really did fit in the Trump administration more than people give him credit for.
But here's the thing that gets me. The thing that's really kind of, as I'm watching the people that Trump surrounded himself with, and this is all deadly serious.
Right.
You had the career people, you had the Hirschmans, the Cipollones, you had people who were, the Republicans are people I don't agree with, but at least they're as dubbed Team Normal,
a professional class,
right?
Professional class, right?
They're that. And then he surrounded himself with all of these characters, kooks and crazies, the Sidney Powells, the Giulianis, all of these, the Lynn Woods, all of these really, the CEO of Overstock.com, the pillow guy. You got all of these characters.
Don't forget Steve Bannon and Seb Gorka started off.
All of
the
administration. So you got all of this cabal of kookery that is advising him and moving him in a direction that he wants to go. His tendency is towards chaos and horrible. So I'm sitting here going, I am surprised that John Bolton wasn't able to get him to nuke Iran.
You have to want, and the thing is, it's amazing. That's what was so funny about Liz Cheney's opening, right? Which calling out the argument that he was just badly advised. No, he purposely surrounded himself with kooks. He purposely surrounded himself with yes man. He purposely sought out the most nuttiest of people, and they gave him bad advice, admittedly, but he wanted it, right? And so he is a grown adult, as she pointed out. He's a 70-year-old man who was allegedly successful in business, and that's the irony of some of these arguments, isn't it, Rick? It's like, oh well, he's amazing. He needs to be president because he's such a big success as a billionaire, TV star. Then the next argument is, but he's too stupid to take advice not to do a coup. And so it's just it's just such a crock, the whole thing, and they want us to believe this. And by the way, the same people who say, well, he's just badly advised, so it's not his fault, also say, well, we should reelect him, that he should have another chance. No, Donald Trump's a grown adult. He made decisions. He sought out people who would tell him what he wanted to hear. He got rid of people who didn't. That's the one thing we know from his experience in 4 years is if you said the wrong thing, you were out. And so he does it still. Look at Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks is as Trumpy as a Trumpy gets, but he simply said one time we should move on from the election, and then he was ostracized from Trump world. So the just sheer lunacy of the whole thing. Again, going back to everybody says, well, it got worse as it went on. No, it was always bad.
Yep.
His first white half of his eyes was Stephen Bannon and Seb Gorka. And so please spare me he had to go to the bottom of the barrel. No, this is all Donald Trump. There's a Greek saying, a fish stinks from the head down. Donald Trump is the head, and
absolutely.
He stinks.
And the thing is that to come out of this for me anyway is he kept looking for what he wanted, and he kept looking for the advice that he wanted, and he got it in Team Crazy. Jeff Clark, perfect example. Now I'm surprised that he didn't pull the trigger on that, because I think. At what point do you think he realized this wasn't going to happen, though? I mean, because there's a point at which you got to think, we've gone kind of to a wall, or do you think did he ever understand that?
In January 6th, in the sense of like the success of his coup attempt?
Yeah,
I don't think he still sees this. I think he's still out there trying. Don't you think? I think that people say he's a liar. I think he's delusional in a lot of ways. He says the lies enough that he believes them himself. So he'll seek out the people who will give him the lies he wants to hear. I think he grudgingly gave up on January 6th when it was looking like it's failed, and then he powdered his way. It didn't even show up for the inauguration because he's a classless, horrible human being who has no interest in actually serving anyone but himself. So I'm not necessarily sure.
So you're giving him the defense. You're going to give him the defense that he's delusional.
Well. Look, you can be delusional and not crazy. Those are different things. Okay. Again, the court term for being crazy. The man has been surrounded by people telling him how awesome he is his whole life. He is used to being told that he's right all the time, and he'll convince himself of whatever he wants to be convinced himself. He convinced himself he's a billionaire. So again, that's not an excuse. I mean, again, it's like we say in my world, in the veterans world, when every time there's a violent crime perpetuated by a veteran, the first thing he says, well, he probably had PTSD. No, that's not an excuse. Maybe they do. Maybe that's part of it. But PTSD is not a disease that leads you to violence, typically, except maybe against yourself. Same thing with being, megalomaniac, being a narcissist, being a delusional. It doesn't excuse you of the crimes that you've committed or the things he's doing wrong, right? He's not psychotic. He's just a rotten human being.
Yeah.
And being a rotten human being isn't a crime or isn't an excuse for it. It's just being a rotten human being.
Yeah, and that a lot of that came out. Now,
Right.
you know, as I was watching some of the testimony, and there was a lot of stuff. I mean, these hearings, this being the 7th, it's just been like bombshell after bombshell
Yeah, it
going
was
off.
packed today, wasn't it? I was reviewing some of the big moments. Like, wow, that's a lot. That's just a lot.
And for me, the big story for me that I took from it was the Stephen Ayers guy, the cabinet maker from Ohio. And this is where I want to spend a little time because, you know, I believe most of the people who were there on January 6th, most of the people who voted for Trump, they in their mind believe that they're good, God-fearing Americans, that they're the best Americans, that, you know, they wave the flag, that they're the uber, you know, they love their country more than everyone else because they've been told this day after day, and they've put the blinders on, they've surrounded themselves with that message, they've draped themselves in the flag, and they truly believed what Trump was telling them. And this Ayers story is you know, right in line with probably millions of other people in this country. And I'm hoping people are paying attention to his story. I mean, he had, you know, he was a family man, married with kids, going to camping, doing basketball at the house, the job. Life was good, living the American dream. And, well, not so much now because this.
Yep. I think what they've done a great job. You know, I think we talked about this previously, is telling a larger story through the small perspective, right? I think it goes a little bit when the hearing when they use the Georgia, the pressure on Georgia from Brad Raffensperger all the way down to you know, Miss Ruby, Miss Ruby, and they told that larger story, the pressure and the assaults on our election through that. They did the same thing today with Ayers, right? That he is a perfect representation, example of the thousands that appeared that day on Capitol Hill and attacked our thing. Now, again, it's not an excuse, right? But it does show how they're living in an alternative information bubble. They're being fed the things they want to hear. They're being told, you know, lies. They're being not fed counter information. If you look at Fox, you look at OAN, you look at Newsmax, they're very good. What they do, people talk a lot about the stuff they say, the lies they tell, but what they don't talk about is the things they don't tell, right? They don't tell the counter narrative. There's very rarely the counter narrative to the story. And so, yeah, they're fed these lies about, I mean, look at the violent tweets, and, you know, every Democrat should be lined up, man, woman, and child. And he was a part of that. So I think they did a very effective job using him as sort of a cipher, if you will, for that larger story and the consequences of it. He is the perfect example, right? He went there, he got allegedly, according to his story, got sucked into the crowd, got sucked into the Capitol, paid dearly, lost his job, lost his home, and has sort of seen the light these days. And he's not the only one. There's 700 cases, right? He won't be the last. There'll be many more. So I think as an example of what the folks who actually stormed the Capitol, there's a very effective use of using sort of that. This is the this is the foot soldier they've used, whereas the shock troops were the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers and the Proud Boys. And so I thought that in a story, again, I always approach this from a storytelling standpoint as a communicator, that I think that was a very effective means of using him. But what does it mean? Does it change others' minds? Does it make them come along? I don't know. I still go back to the same thing, which is my hope for this entire series of hearings is that those who are sitting this out, those who have been fence sitters, the estimated 77 million Americans who didn't vote in the 2020 election, just sort of don't participate in our political life, they're the ones I really hope reach. They're the ones we need to change their minds, because in the end, we do know that the hardcore MAGA, the ultra MAGA now, really only make up about 30% of the population at most. And so therefore they are a minority. And if we can keep them as a minority of the voting bloc, if we activate those who are sitting on the fence.
No, and that's always been the goal in this for me, is to wake up and I've said this before, we're betting on the least active, least educated, least engaged voters to finally pay attention and now care.
Right.
That's not a really great position to be in to save a country.
It's not awesome, but again, it is what it is. I literally just had an evening dinner with a former congressman here in Missouri, and the same conversation we had is like he read off the numbers from Missouri where how many fence sitters we have. We really do have to convince people that our democracy in danger, and their participation or lack of participation will make the difference.
And the hope is that some Republicans are paying attention to this, and some of the polling
Yes.
coming out is showing that some of them are. Now,
Yeah.
that Rusty Bowers
Yeah.
testified not too long ago, the Arizona Speaker of the House, and he just did an interview
Yep.
here recently where he's kind of walked back his support of Trump because he said, well, what was his comment? He said he was going to vote for someone other than Trump in the primary because he doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the morals and the platform of my party. And I just see it more and more all the time. That guy he's his own party. It's the party of intimidation, and I don't like it. I think he's thinking about a different Republican Party, maybe one, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
What I view the Trump Party as the Republican Party. So the question I have for you, Fred, is, as you're looking at these hearings, which have been focused solely on Trump, isn't the bigger picture that this is really the core of the Republican Party now? That this isn't all about Trump, that this really is about the Republicans as a whole, and that I think what could come out of this is they saved the Republican Party by throwing Trump overboard?
Well, I think there was a dream a long time ago that throwing Trump overboard would save the party and it would go back to normal. But the problem is when you throw Trump overboard now, you're going to go to Ron DeSantis. You're going to go to Tom Cotton. There are younger, prettier, smarter authoritarians lined up. The Republican Party has embraced a form of politics that's based on authoritarianism and dominance of minority. That is what it is now. I won't get into it with our fellow Democrats who would argue, well, you just haven't been paying attention. It's always been that way. Like, yeah, I got it. Thanks for chiming in. I'm really tired of that. The fact is, though, that the modern Republican Party since Trump has fully embraced authoritarianism. They fully embraced the idea that they are being replaced and therefore must act in a way that supports their minority rule. And they're going to, and that's it. So I've lost all hope that somehow that the party would wake up one day and Trump would be gone. He'll go to jail, and we'll have a reasonable opposition to work against or with in the future. I don't believe that's the case. I'm watching too many normals, if you will, candidates be thrust out of their offices for daring to speak ill of Trump or anything in the party. You're seeing too many have to sign on to the big lie. Just watch that debate in Arizona with Kerry Lake and the nut jobs. Watch that debate in Michigan with the governor candidates. There are no reasonable Republicans welcome anymore, and that's not Trumpism. That's who the party is. Like you said, that really is who the party is. So I think the only answer is defeat them across the board. I had a lovely meeting the other day with a local Republican who's running for office who was highly recommended by a number of friends who said I should meet him. But in the end, he embraces the party for me to say, look, I'm sorry. You're going to be pressured. Look at everybody talk about Youngkin in Virginia. What's Youngkin being told? Youngkin's like, well, we should have maybe a 15th abortion ban. They're not having it. The base is going crazy. Like, no, full abortion ban immediately, and let's get rid of IUDs too. Let's get rid of birth control. The nut jobs are running the party now. It is the party. And so, it used to be. I had a conversation with the same couple tonight, and my colleague there is a former Democrat. Yeah, is a Democrat, and she said, the thing was, there was a time you could say as a Republican that you're a social conservative or fiscal conservative, but social liberal, right? Remember that one?
Yeah.
Frankly, it's how I described myself as a Republican when I was a Republican, and now there just isn't. It is all social conservative. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be. They're not fiscally conservative in any way. You can't say they ran the country in a fiscal conservative manner when they were in charge. No, it's all about the social issues. It's all about this. So. Another long answer, which I shouldn't give, but in the end, I do believe that I have changed in the last 2 years since the election in 2020 to realize that when we get rid of Trump, we're just gonna have a different version of Trump, and it's probably gonna be this idiot from Florida and his ill-fitting suits and his make-believe fascism.
No, I mean, because there's always been that authoritarian stream that goes through the Republican Party. There's always been that.
Sure.
That the Pat Buchanan wing from the early 90s.
Right.
You've always the dog whistle's always been there. It's just now the dog has, to use that analogy, has not only caught the car, they've eaten through the trunk and they're in the back seat and they're now in the driver's seat.
And they don't need a dog whistle. I mean, the whole point of a dog whistle is only they hear it, right? Or the dogs hear it. they're not even bothered with that silliness anymore. We all hear it. They're not hiding in any way. They don't have to do dog. They're doing freaking whistles now. They're using damn train horns, my friend.
Yeah, they got their flags.
They got their flags. They're going in our faces. They're showing up. They're screaming at us. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, I stopped using the term dog whistle because they're not dog whistling anymore. They don't have to. They're honking horns. They're driving down the middle street. They're ridiculous, stupid flags and their giant trucks in our faces, telling us to go F off. There's no more dog whistles. They're using train horns.
How do you then respond to that? I mean, just to kind of wrap this up, where do you see this going, and what's the response? Because I've been saying for a very long time that Democrats in a street fight will offer to hold your coat. When do the Democrats throw the coat on the ground and ball up their digits and get in there and start, metaphorically mixing it up?
Well, there I am again with that weird optimism I've been talking about the last few times we talked. I do have some. We are seeing some folks finally starting to kind of take their gloves off and roll their sleeves up. I think there are some really good people coming in the Democratic Party saying, no, we got to fight. There's great candidates saying they're going to fight. That's the thing. I do think there's a new generation of Democrats, as are more senior members and leaders hopefully depart in due time and their time when they depart and go to stage right. I am cautiously optimistic that a new generation of Democrats understands the need to band together and to fight, and they are, and we're seeing elements of that. Is it enough? Is it fast enough? And, those are the two issues we have to ask, right? Are you fighting hard enough? Are you fighting fast enough? And do you recognize the threat at the moment? That really is the question. But guys like us would be out here saying, look, you got to get the fight. I'm happy to throw a towel over you and give you some water and kick them back into the ring. That's really all we can do. But I think many people recognize now. And again, I keep going back to the Roe v. Wade decision, the Dobbs decision. I think it woke up a lot of people that the worm has turned. We've crossed the Rubicon. That is a very, and it's a very dangerous time. And if they don't get in the fight, we're going to lose the whole darn thing. So I end these with a cautious optimism that perhaps we're going in the right direction.
We'll see. But
we shall see.
But Fred, I appreciate the time and the input.
Always.
Good stuff, my friend.
Always, my friend. Thank you for having me.
All righty. Our good friend Fred Wellman, co-founder of the Beer Hall Project. Make sure you check out their website, beerhallproject.com. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a look at that. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Got the talk. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1850. That was the birthday of Oscar Neebe. Neebe was one of 8 men convicted of inciting violence at a workers' rally at Haymarket Square in Chicago in 1886. He was born in New York City, where he became a skilled tinsmith. He moved to Chicago in 1877, where he worked at the Adams Westlake Manufacturing Company. He was fired and blacklisted when he tried to organize his fellow workers. This, however, did not stop his organizing efforts. Oscar founded his own business, the Acme Yeast Company, and turned his attention to organizing brewery workers. He was active in the Chicago Central Labor Union. By 1886, the labor movement was growing in power and action in Chicago. On May 1st, thousands took to the streets in strikes and demonstrations for the 8-hour workday. 3 days later, a bomb was thrown by an unknown assailant at a workers' rally protesting police violence against demonstrators. No one knows to this present day who threw the bomb. 8 men were tried and convicted for the crime. Oscar Neebe was sentenced to 15 years in prison in Joliet, Illinois. 4 of his fellow accused were executed by the hangman's rope. After 6 years in prison, Neebe was pardoned by Illinois Governor John Peter Altgeld. His first wife died shortly after the trial. It is said she died of a broken heart. At his trial, Neebe wrote, quote, I have been in the labor movement since 1875. I have seen how the police have trodden on the Constitution of this country and crushed the labor organizations. I am sorry I am not to be hung with the rest of the men. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Love to hear your thoughts. You want to chime in. Now, what's interesting is, Fred brings up, and I've been talking about the Republican Party for a while, because, look, you need functional opposition. You do. You need debate. You need different ideas and policies, and our government's broken right now. You don't have a functional Republican Party. They don't have a platform. They don't have really an ideology other than power and authoritarian rule. And where Fred's right is, Trump going away is not going to solve the problems that the Republicans have. They're an authoritarian party. DeSantis is the next step, and this was always going to be the scary part, that you would come up with the next kind of authoritarian. What's interesting is some polling out by the New York Times and Siena. They point out that there's an educational split within the Republican Party. And you may remember, Trump, the famous comment, "I love the poorly educated." Yeah, because they love him. According to the findings, DeSantis leads Trump as the 2020 nominee, 32% to 28% among college graduates who identify as Republicans. But of non-college graduates, Trump has a 58 to 21% lead. And that's the Alex Jones crowd. That's the fall down the rabbit hole crowd. That's the crowd that, I'm sure that the Stephen Ayers of the world, who were harangued into social media and were fixated by and hanging on every word that was put out by all of these right-wing mouthpieces. I find it interesting that this polling goes this way. Now, the one failure yet that I've seen of the hearings, and maybe this is still coming, maybe the 8th and potentially final hearing, which is going to be in prime time. Maybe this is going to be the blockbuster, the one that blows all these other 7 out of the water and answers all of the burning questions. For me, the money. The money has always been the biggest question in all of this. Who funded all of this? Who funds all of these groups? Who pays the salaries of the guy who testified, the communications guy who testifies, and all of these militia groups? Who pays for all of these programs, the Alex Joneses, and all of these people to do all of these things? Who funds all that? Where's this big donor money coming from? Because to pull off a little rally like they did on January 6th, it's a huge funding thing. Talking a couple $1 million. That's just not a couple of good God-fearing patriots throwing a couple of pennies in. No bake sale is going to get you that. These are the billionaires actually funding this stuff. That's what I want to know. Was it the Overstock CEO? Was it the pillow guy? Was it the Publix woman? Was it I seriously doubt it's the Koch brothers. But was it those moneyed interests? I think that's what we need to be finding out more of. And maybe that's going to be in the blockbuster potentially final hearing. Amazing stuff. Love to hear your thoughts, though. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. If you miss any portion of the program, make sure you grab the podcast. Always there, always available. Wherever you get yours, you'll find ours. I'll tell you, amazing and just must-see TV. Amazing stuff.
It's some of the oldest trees that there are. There's trees that are 2,000 years old.
Wildfires again threaten iconic giant sequoias. Offshore wind power is booming, and China is leading the way. Plus,
the level of the Great Salt Lake has dropped to a new historic low.
The Great Salt Lake is drying up.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
Hey folks, E-News. I'm Ed Donahue. Inflation has hit a 4-decade high. The AP's Sagar Magani reports the bid to tame it could put the economy into a recession.
Boy, I have not heard a 9-something inflation rate for a very long time.
But Crescent Capital's Jack Ablin says it's here, 9.1%, the biggest yearly hike since 1981. The increases are in nearly every corner of life. Grocery prices up 12.2%, the most since 1979. Airline tickets up